The word Holocaust is a Greek word meaning sacrifice by fire. When Nazis came into power in 1933, they not only targeted Jewish people, but they also targeted gypsies, disabled people, communists, socialists, Jehovah's Witnesses, and homosexuals due to their racial superior title. During 1945, Jews occupied a part of Germany that the Nazis would soon take over during World War II. By the end of 1995, the Nazis and any other collaborators that were working together had knocked out all of the European Jews, which they called the final solution. Not only were the victims of this horrible time Jews, they mostly included gypsies, and when I say disabled people, I mean physically and mentally, but mostly Germans. The Germans and millions of other people were murdered as well, including Soviet prisoners of war due to starvation, disease, neglect, or maltreatment. In earlier years of the Nazi reign, they established concentration camps. To concentrate the Jews and later deport them, the Germans created what are known as ghettos, also known as transit camps and forced labor camps, for them to work during the war days. Between the years of 1941 and 1944, the Germans deported millions of Jews from Germany and made them go to extermination camps, in other words, the gassing chambers. During the final months of the war, Nazi guards moved camped inmates by train or forced march. Those were often called death marches. These death marches continued until May of 1945, the same day the German forces surrendered to the Allies. Many of the survivors were found and took to shelter in displaced persons camps established by the Allied powers. The Holocaust devastated most European Jewish communities and eliminated hundreds of Jewish communities in Europe. There is actually no living proof that Adolf Hitler was actually behind everything. The only evidence that we have of the Holocaust and the horrible time in history that took place are the events that led up to the final solution and pretty much of Anne Frank's diary. Anne Frank is a very big person during the Holocaust. She is one of the million children that died. For the first 5 years of Anne Frank's life, she lived in the outskirts of Frankfurt, Germany. After the Nazis' invasion, the Frank family fled to Amsterdam. Here, the family found an apartment building where they hid up in the attic for 2 years with another family. In August of 1944, the family was then discovered by a German state police officer, also known as a Gestapo, and that same day, the Franks were arrested and sent to Auschwitz to a concentration camp to perform hard manual labor. Especially Anne and her sister, because they were so young, they couldn't really have anything else to do, so the Nazis put them in charge of moving everything and hard labor. Anne and her sister therefore both died in March of 1945 due to a terrible disease. While in hiding, Anne kept a diary where she recorded her fears, hopes, and experiences. After the family was arrested, the diary was found in the same apartment building and was later published after the war. That was published in many languages other than English. It was published in French, German, so everybody can read and hear about the horrific things that happened during that time. Anne Frank became a symbol not only for the Holocaust, but also for the lost promise of the children who died. The Holocaust was a terrible time in the United States, but it just goes to show that no matter what you do to the U.S., you can never do too much, and it can always make us stronger. There is another symbol of the Holocaust, and it is a movie that they made in around 2008, and it was called The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and it's about a little boy in a concentration camp, a little Jewish boy who was around 8 years old. They took his clothes, and he was in a striped prisoner's outfit. There was another little boy named Bruno, who was a Nazi soldier's little son, and those two little boys became friends. After a while, Bruno had to move, but it didn't stop their friendship. And after the family couldn't find Bruno, and just so happened that Bruno went into the camp with this other little boy that was captured, and they ended up going into the gas chambers together, holding hands. It's pretty sad that friendship had to end because of the Jewish and the German and us being the enemy. But it just goes to show that the United States is very well and can get pretty much through anything if they got through the Holocaust. And that was a terrible time for the United States, killing many of our men in the war, not only our men, but also Germans and Jewish.